yeah, this is going to happen for me right now, and nailed it. Had my first 16K in sales in a week, which is unheard of in my business. I went from like lower numbers, obviously, in that. And it was just, it created this new reality for me that, again, that's what you pointed out to me, was like, why are you looking so far into the future? You got 50 days and you're looking out that far out. Like, let's focus on right now. And so that was just, completely life-changing for my business.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Life Mentor podcast with your host, Balazs W Kardos. This episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be actually doing a Diamond Life Mentor Uncut, sharing with you a previous client success interview that I did with Jasmin Valdez, who is inside of my Diamond Life Mentorship Program and my accelerator program, and who is just having epic results. And I wanted to share this client success interview with you because her story is really, really inspiring. And for those of you that have been enjoying my podcast and learning from me, this gives you a little bit of an idea of what's available to you as well if you're looking to further invest into yourself, into your business, into getting epic results, just like Jasmine has. So this is a recording of a client success interview I did recently, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, let's dive in. Super pumped and excited to have you here. I can't wait to hear your story and your inspiring results and success that you've recently been creating inside the Diamond Life Accelerator mentorship with myself and so many other epic people. So let's dive right in, Jasmine. It's so good to have you. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you messaged me earlier on Instagram and you're like, I manifested this. I said I was going to do this. And here you are a little bit around 6 months later. So congratulations, first of all, on your recent success, and the fact that you manifested this and you're here just goes to show that other people can literally create their future with their intentions and their hard work and applying the coaching and mentorship that I also provide in the program. So let's rewind for those people who don't know you, they don't know your story. Walk us through basically your life leading up to before you got started in your high ticket online business. Paint that picture for us.
Yeah, oh boy, where do I start? Okay, so I grew up in a low income household. Like, I was raised by a single mom. She came here from Guatemala. So Spanish was actually my first language. And obviously she was after that American dream. She wanted that for herself, for us, for her kids, for her family. She was one of 12. So like, she was the first one to kind of branch out and be like, hey, I'm going to go do this on my own and try to break that cycle for her family. And so naturally that just meant that, like, growing up, it was constantly always hearing about, you have to get your degree, you have to get your education, this is so important, you got to do more for yourself, and the way I grew up and all these things. So I worked my butt off since I've been in high school. I was working 2 jobs in high school to kind of help out around the house and everything like that. I ended up getting myself a full ride scholarship to go to college. I got my degree in business management. So I was the first one in my family to get to go to college and then graduate from college. So that was amazing. And then I ended up landing myself a job in retail management with a large retailer, which was so exciting, that I got a job in a field that I studied, because I feel like a lot of people don't actually have that happen for themselves. And at this point, like, I'm making more money than anyone in my family has ever made. No one in my family has ever been in a management position before. So to me, I was living that American dream. And even though I didn't like my boss at the time and I was working over 60 hours a week, like, I actually was just so grateful to be in that position and to already be building like a better life than the one my mom had and the one I grew up in. So I was like pretty determined to climb that corporate ladder. I wanted to climb up so high. I was like, I want to be the CEO of this big retailer and nothing's going to stop me. And my husband and I were both in retail management at the same time. So we did really well for ourselves. We were both very, very ambitious. We still are. But our first home got to be a brand new construction home. And that to us was like our biggest accomplishment to date. because, you know, like I grew up in a small apartment, shared a bed with my mom and my sister up until I left to college. So to us to be living and have like this house was just, we're like, we're doing it. This is great. And it was just reassurance that we were on the right career path and that this was where we were meant to be. So summer of 2021 comes along and we find out that I'm pregnant, and that was not in our plans. We were both very, very career driven, and we were just like ready to just, you know, grind it out and build that life for us. So this forced us to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, we can't be doing these 60-hour work weeks anymore. Like, what's the plan here? We can't be away from the house that much. What do we have going on for ourselves, and what do we want to do now? Which was hard for us because, again, we were so committed to like, we will do whatever it takes to get to the top. And now we kind of had to put a stop to that and be like, how can we do this while still getting to be present for our son? Because both him and I grew up in families where both of our parents were not very present. They were always working. So we didn't want to continue that on for him. So we were trying to figure this out. At the time, I'm like going through a pregnancy. I'm third trimester in a Black Friday holiday madness in retail. I'm throwing up in our bathroom constantly because I was sick for most of my pregnancy. So it was just a complete nightmare. I was tired all the time. It was so hard to still be working, you know, 70 hours at this point a week during the holiday season. And I remember crying in my office at work and just being like, what is going on? Like, there has to be more to life than this. Like, this whole going to work and trading in my time for money, it doesn't make sense for me. And I'm like, I know that's the path that I was taught to do, and that's how my mom did it. And, you know, she did well for herself, so I must have to do that too. And it was just hard trying to figure out like what that meant for me, and trying to figure out this new life now of trying to figure out like, okay, how can I actually be present but still get this money? And it felt like it was a trade-off. Like, either I can get the time with my son and not have the money, or I can get the money but I'm not going to have time with my son. And that was a really hard battle that I was trying to figure out. And even when he was born, we toured daycares because we still didn't know if I was going to go back to work. And I remember walking into one and walking right back out and being like, absolutely not. There's no way I'm putting him in daycare. I can't do that. And so at that point was when I was like, I have to do whatever it takes to be able to be home with him and still make that money. Like, there has to be something out there that allows you to have both at the same time. And of course, the universe was on my side, and I ended up having an Instagram account run across that was like suggested to follow. And it so happened to be a cashier that used to be on my team a few years ago. And she was like living her life, traveling everywhere. And she was a teacher when she was working for me. So I was like, what happened here? How did you go from being a teacher to like now traveling constantly? She was doing RV life and whatnot. And so I reached out to her. She told me about, you know, how she started her online business, how she's been doing this from literally anywhere, now planning to have a family and everything. And I was like, I want that. Whatever you're doing, like, let me sign up for that. And even though there was still some hesitations getting away from the retail environment, management environment that I was in, it did take me a while, but finally I was on board. And I was like, honestly, I will do whatever it takes. If I was so determined before in that retail environment, like, I knew I was going to be a hard worker with my online business. So I dove in. Now we're a little over a year into my business, have been here for every single moment with my son, which has been so cool. My husband has left the retail world too. He's in real estate now. So we both kind of get to be home with him, which I never even imagined was possible. And yeah, I can't imagine being anywhere else now at this point or doing anything else.
Wow, that's such a powerful story. And for those of you that are tuning in and listening to this right now, can you relate to some of the things that Jasmine just shared? Because I feel like there are so many people that can relate to those specific like moments of aha and frustration and how can I go left? Can I go right? And all that. And I just want to commend you because I think that the majority of people have those thoughts and they do cry in their office or their job or whatever when they find out they're going to have a baby or, you know, I can relate to it more from the men's side of the equation. Like, I'm sure your husband's like, what are we going to do? This isn't going to make sense. But you actually took action on it. And a lot of people, even though they feel those emotions and they feel sort of stuck, they don't actually have the courage to take that step forward, to take that risky move. It feels risky, of course, at first, because you like have this guaranteed career. You're moving up, you're climbing the ladder. Everything sort of seems like pretty mapped out for your future at that point. You're like, have a pretty good idea where you're going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But then, as you also know, with everything that happened the last few years with the economy and what's about to happen in the near future and continues to kind of be this decline, it's a contraction. Of course, it's not forever, but there will be a bit of a contraction for a little while. You actually took action on that. So I just want to say, amazing job. Congratulations to you. You put in the work. You made the sacrifices. You're a present mama. Your husband's, so I'm just so happy for you, because I relate to so much of that myself as well. That's literally what I was forecasting and building towards for the last decade, leading up to when I had my daughter 2.5 years ago, and the same exact things. Like, it's all worth it. This made sense. So let's get into the business. So you got started, you said, around a year ago, approximately. Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
So how did that initial time go for you when you were still juggling your life? I'm assuming you were still working at first, and then the baby. Like, walk us through that. Like, how did you initially strategize your time, your calendar, your commitment? Did it seem chaotic? Was it stressful? Like, walk us through that initial first 90 days, first 6 months of your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it all worked out the way it was supposed to, because my son was about 2 months old at the time. So I was still on maternity leave. I
Okay.
was lucky enough that I got a 4-month maternity leave. And at that point, I was like, I'm going to use this time to build my business and make sure that I'm not going back to work after this maternity leave. So he was around 2 months old when I got started. And at 2 months old, they sleep a lot. So I was like, I will use any little tiny bit of time I can get to get this thing going. And that was my mindset, was like, I'm just going to grind it out right now while I have the time, while I'm able to. And I mean, keep in mind, like, I'm a new mom. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure it out. And so that was mentally overwhelming, on top of like trying to keep this load of the business going on. So I think at that time I was like, let me just figure out the mental stuff later, and let me just grind through this right now, and then we'll work it out. And honestly, yeah, that meant our house wasn't clean all the time, that I wasn't like cooking all the time. And we were okay with giving that up in the moment, to be here now, obviously in a moment where we're not stressing about that stuff anymore. But it honestly was just like, if he was napping, I was working on trainings, I was building my business, I was building my personal brand, I was watching videos, whatever it took to kind of build that out. And that was pretty much it for the first 90 days. Like, I was trying to get every single resource, everything I could watch, every single video. I was like, I know the older he gets, the less time he's going to be sleeping and the more time he's going to want to be with me. So let me just grind it out right now. I was staying up late. I was waking up early. And honestly, looking back on it now, I know I could have done it a little bit differently, because I did end up getting burnt out mentally, where I ended up for like a couple of weeks just like not doing much, because I was like, holy cow, I took on a whole lot right now. I'm still trying to figure out this new life we have on top of this business life and whatnot. But honestly, I think it was just my mental commitment of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to grind it out and stuff, that helped me get through it. And I'm so glad I did. I wouldn't be this far into my business this early on if it wasn't for those like first 90 days where I was like, I'm not giving up. There's no chance that I'm going to do anything else besides this.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on this, because in the personal development world, entrepreneurship, social media, all that, you hear some of these buzzwords like hard work, commitment, etc. And I think that a lot of the times, even people listening to this right now coming out of your mouth, they're like, yeah, of course. And they don't really pause and go, wait a second. Like, what you're describing is unusual for people to actually do, because you were a new mom, you were under constant pressure. There was a lot of reasons why you could have had those moments of like, but no, I'm not going to wake up early today, or I'm not going to stay up late today. All that kind of mental battling that people have. And most people give into that, and you didn't. So once again, there are these keys to success of even what you said about having the house messy or not cooking or whatever. You knew that like that wasn't your standard. Like, it probably was hard to look around and it was messy, but you also knew it was temporary. And you were willing to trade in the temporary discomfort of being exhausted, tired, messy home, lower standards in exchange for the business knowing that that was a season, it was temporary, and eventually it would pay off. And I feel like so many people aren't willing to do that, right? They're trying to have their cake and eat it too at all stages of their life. And there needs to be a season of discomfort, of being exhausted. And even you mentioned like you pushed yourself to burnout, but my interpretation of burnout isn't a negative thing necessarily. It's almost like learning what we're capable of, pushing ourselves to the max. And that max is usually way, way, way further than what we expect ourselves to be capable of. So it's like burnout is technically a sign of like you push it to the max and you ran out of gas and you need a break before you refuel, which is actually way better than operating at this 50% potential our whole lives and never pushing it, in my opinion. And I've done that as well. And it's not a good thing to be like, for long-term sustainability, but it is really great for short sprints, 90 days, things like that, to like rocket launch your business to exactly where you had. So now we're about 6 months in. Where were you at in terms of your business? Were you making money? Were you making sales? Were things going smoothly? Or did you find like you were frustrated and kind of stuck and looking for some kind of guidance? Like what led you to the mentorship with myself and the Diamond Life?
Yeah. So, I mean, the hard work that I was putting in at the beginning paid off, at least for me, because I was at least seeing consistent sales through the beginning of my business.
Awesome.
However, I got to a point where I was like stagnant. And yeah, to me, I was like, okay, well, I want to reach the level that all these other people are at. You know, there's people having 100K months, 30K months, everything like that. Like, how do I get to that level? And I knew that whatever I was doing in that moment was not what was going to help me get to that next level. It was not going to help me level up. And so I am the type of person that likes to do everything myself. I will figure it out myself. I'm not going to bother anyone. And for me, it was the idea of like finding a mentor or someone was just so out of the question, because I was like, I'll just figure it out on my own. Like it might take me some time, but I got it, no worries and whatnot. And at this point, like there was repeated months where I had like maybe one sale every single month. And I'm like, dang, like I want to do more than this. I want to hit those 10K months, 30K months, 100K months. And I mean, obviously I was in your Facebook group for a while, and there was a specific, I think, call where you were talking about money mindset. And that to me resonates a lot with my background, because that's something I've had to work on for so long, that I was like, man, like that really resonated with me. And I started watching a little bit more of your stuff and more videos and just knowledge that you were putting out, that I was like, okay, I can learn from other people. And it would be really cool to learn from Balazs and how he can help me scale my business. However, I was actually super hesitant, and it was funny because the video that led me to you was about money mindset, but my initial thought was, I'll get started when I have more money, when I'm making more money in my business, which is so funny thinking about it now, that I'm like, that was not the right thinking at all. And it was, I think like several months in, you had led a mastermind on time optimization, which I was struggling with. Like I couldn't figure out at this point. My son's like 9 months oldish. He's getting closer to a year old. He's definitely needing more of my time. I'm like trying to figure out where I fit in time for my business. And I was just feeling overwhelmed. I felt like I didn't have time for a lot of things. And you, like, at that perfect timing, literally your mastermind was like, if you've been struggling with this, if you need more time, if you feel like you're getting all these things. And I was like, that's me, sign me up. And I went and watched it, and immediately I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. I need to just like let the ego go. I need to lean in on and get help from people that obviously know what they're doing, that have the life I want, and figure out how I can take my business to the next level. Because whatever I'm doing right now is not working. It's not getting me there. So I have to trust that other people are going to help me get there. And that same day from your masterclass, I think you had like a call that next day later with the team or with the group. And I was like, sign me up. I want to be on that call tonight. Like, let's do this thing. And I'm so glad I did, because honestly, the money mindset I had before, I would have probably pushed months on end to just be like, when I have the money, I'll get started, not realizing that me starting was going to help me find the money and get the money and make that money back. But yeah.
That's so powerful. So you had a pretty big realization there, where sometimes we do this to ourselves frequently of, happiness is another one. It's like, when I get to here, I'll be happy, instead of realizing that if you're happy now, you get to that place sooner and quicker, and you can have both. And that's such an interesting thing, that most of us actually were raised in that mindset of, save up and work harder and take on more time and sacrifice more and so on. And there is power in that in some cases. But when it comes to like scaling your business or getting mentorship and coaching, you want to get in before you're ready. That's when you need it the most, of course. So great job on you getting involved, getting started at that particular stage and getting ready for the next level. So walk us through. So you make this investment. It was scary. It was big. Walk us through the financial side of it, of like making that decision. And then what happened next? How long was it until you felt like you made the right decision and you got ROI? How long did that take?
I mean, so for me, obviously at the point in my business, like I'm not working, I'm basically relying on my business to kind of help me take care of things. Like I charged that thing to a credit card. I was like, I will figure out this debt later. And I know I'm going to make my money back on this. And that same night, again, you had one of your group calls immediately. Yeah. First call that night, I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? I was so mad at myself because I was like, I learned so much immediately from your first call that I immediately went and implemented. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was almost like I got a clear vision for my business that I didn't have before of where I was going. I was just kind of going through the movements of everything, but I didn't have like where I wanted to be in a certain time and how I was going to do it and everything like that. And so to even just hear the struggles of other people that were going through similar things and how you were answering to those problems and everything like that, I was like, holy cow, he's literally answering every single problem I've had in my business. And like, why did I not get into this sooner? And so, yeah, it was immediate. Like immediately I was like, heck yeah. And then obviously a couple months later made my money back anyway, but it was definitely worth it.
So cool. So cool. So now I want to get to the real exciting coaching that landed for you. So I want to kind of set the background for everybody. So you were in the mentorship for about 5 months. You were implementing and executing on the group coaching calls and the curriculum. So you were making like progress, right? And that's a big part of my mentorship that I always tell everybody that's involved is our goal is to take your current problems, you get coaching on it, then you implement and execute on the feedback and the coaching for the next couple of weeks. And then we want to turn your previous struggle into your updated win and continue to chip away. So you were doing that. So
Yep.
walk us through some of the things that you implemented real quick. And then we're going to get to what happened a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a month ago, roughly, of when you were letting me know that you had a goal to create a 10K month. And when we're talking 10K, we're talking like commissions, cash in your account, not sales volume, which is a different number. So 10K month. So walk us through kind of what was happening. You were implementing some big changes, some big pieces. One thing that comes to mind specifically is you were frustrated by one of your front end webinars at one point, and you were saying like it felt a little bit out of alignment. And I was like, why don't you make your own webinar? Am I right? And then you did that like immediately. And now you've kind of taken even more responsibility of your business. So tell us about how that went.
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, I was going to say from the beginning, just implementing every single little thing that you've done, as far as even, I know the first thing immediately was the confidence piece in my business. Cause the first big question I asked was like, hey, I'm having these guilt things. Like I can't get over the guilt of doing this, this, and that. And you immediately were like, get over it. Like, stop doing that. Obviously you give it some tough love, but it resonated with me in the analogy you used. And immediately I was like, okay, so from then on, I kid you not, I've been like, what would Balazs do in this situation? How would he handle this situation? And that's how I go about it, whether that's implementing my own webinar, figuring out my own processes, figuring out like an application process for my systems, like the confidence piece and how I talk to leads completely changed because I was in a very desperate mode before, and hearing how you would handle certain situations, it like completely changed in the way I talked to people and the way I carried myself in my business. And that I think laid the foundation for then later on, obviously building my own webinar, implementing all those things. But it was like every single call you had something small that you're like, you should implement this, you should do this. And obviously they were coming from other people's questions, but they were issues that I had in my business as well that maybe I wasn't putting enough attention on or focus on. And then even just the ones that we were having like one-on-one was just so impactful, and adding in every single one of those was like a puzzle piece until obviously the last one that we were talking about, where I was like, okay, May, I want to hit my first 10K month. Like I'm going through a slump. At this point, I was going through a 30-day slump. I had no sales. And it was the first time in my business where I was like, what's happening? Like I was gaining momentum, and then there was just like silence. And that's when I came to you and I was like, hey, I'm in this slump. I've been struggling, whatever. And it just so happened that the same day of our call was the same day I landed the first sale after that slump and whatnot. But you just gave me some advice that really opened up my mind to that, where you're like, well, why are you shooting for a 10K month in May? Like, we're in April. Why are you not shooting for a 10K day now? And I realized that all these results I kept putting for my business, I was putting in the future. I was not putting in the now. And I was like, oh, in the future, I'll make this. And again, to your point, I kept putting it off of like, in the future, I'll do this. I'll be happy if this, blah, blah, whatever. And it was just literally just like that one concept that you had of like, why aren't you shooting for a 10K day now? I was like, oh, shoot, you're right. Like, I could have a 10K day tomorrow if I was working towards that, but I wasn't at the time. And I mean, implementing what you said. So you taught me a lot about like reverse engineering my numbers and how to look at my business on that aspect of how are you actually going to get there. And that was huge for me because I didn't quite know that beforehand. And putting in those numbers and realizing like, okay, it's actually a lot easier than it seems. Like, I don't know why I never put these numbers together to realize that this is a lot closer than I thought. But yeah, I mean, long story short, I was like, literally everything you say, I wrote it down. I was like, let me implement this. I'll do this right now. I'll do this week, make sure it's through. And then by the next call, I had already implemented what you had said on the last one. And this one was a new one. So I'm like, I'm going to implement that too. And it's just been building up throughout time.
Awesome. So yeah, it was so perfect because I was like, you're giving yourself this one goal, this one opportunity for 10K month in May, but you have like 50 something days from now till then. So you could have 50 opportunities to have a 10K day rather than one opportunity to hit a 10K month by the end of May, which if you miss it, you know, it might be disappointing, whatever. So walk us through what happened next. So you basically figured out your numbers, knew what you needed to create in terms of like front end leads and conversions, etc. And your cost per application, your cost per sale, all of those numbers became super clear, which makes it real, right? The reason we need to always know our numbers in our business is because our numbers make everything tangible and real. Otherwise, we're hoping, wishing, praying, whatever we're doing, which is all good and fine, but it still needs to be related back to factual data and numbers, which you now realized. So your results recently, where you put a whole bunch of people through applications and financing, et cetera. And then what was the result? What happened?
Yeah. So I ended up, well, I guess to backtrack a little bit, it's funny you say that because I've always been a numbers person. Like, I literally went into accounting and everything, love numbers. And for some reason that never clicked for me until you put it together like that. Like, just look at your numbers. It's so easy. So yeah, implemented everything, looked at my numbers. I was like, this is exactly how many people I need to get through for this and that. And ended up doing $16,000 in sales for the week, which was literally only a couple weeks after that call. Like, that's how powerful it was that I was like, immediately, yeah, this is going to happen for me right now, and nailed it. Had my first 16K in sales in a week, which is unheard of in my business. I went from like lower numbers, obviously, in that. And it was just, it created this new reality for me that, again, that's what you pointed out to me. It was like, why are you looking so far into the future? You got 50 days and you're looking out that far out. Like, let's focus on right now. And so that was just, I mean, completely life-changing for my business.
Amazing. So what are you on track for the month of May at this point right now?
So for commissions wise,
yeah, just in total.
Yeah, I should be hitting the 10K in commissions for the month of May, which was my original goal. And I probably would have gotten to it a lot sooner
Yeah.
if it would have gotten, yeah, but yeah,
That's
I'm so
perfect.
excited.
That's so perfect. I'm so excited for you. And you know, the thing about this too is that your whole entire world has now shifted. So as you gain momentum, you're targeting, your focus, your expectations, how you're building and moving, and your confidence. I can tell you're super confident. You know what is yours. You're going after it. It's gonna happen. It's already done. And I love seeing that, like, ambition met with a strategy and a game plan together combined, because now you just go and execute on that. So with that being said, for everybody who's listening right now, who's maybe got some sales happening just like you, or maybe they got no sales happening and they're probably thinking to themselves, well, now's not a good time to get coaching or mentorship. I'm going to save up in the future, like you mentioned earlier. What do you have to say to somebody who's in the same type of business as you, and how valuable the coaching and mentorship is, and what they should do to get started, or to at least book a call and see if it's a good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like, put those fears aside. And obviously, if you're interested in this, I'm assuming you have your business already. And the biggest turning point for me was like, I'm over here telling people that they should let go of their fears and take the first step and stop giving excuses for themselves. But I was giving excuses to myself on why I wouldn't join this program. So I was like, the best way I can be the best mentor to these people is to take my own advice and to stop letting fears get in my way and stop making excuses for myself. And it'll all work out in the end. Obviously, like I said, Balazs literally gives you the systems and the numbers and like helps you figure out the numbers on how you're going to make that money back anyway. So it's really just a matter of like what excuses are holding you back and just move past those anyway, because that's how your business is going to grow and that's how you're going to grow as a person too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited to be coaching you, mentoring you. And I know it's just the beginning, and I can't wait to see the final numbers for May, and then June will be bigger.
Yes.
And by the end of this year, my prediction for you is 30K months at least in cash, commissions in the bank, because you got all the pieces in place. And plus you got my continued support, coaching and mentorship every couple of weeks. We have an exciting call right after this as well today. So I can't wait to see you on here. Thank you for your time coming out here, sharing your amazing story. It's so inspiring to everybody. Make sure you guys share some love in the comments below for Jasmine. And if you need support, you need my help to build your business, go ahead and click the button to book a free call and my team will help you out. All right. Thanks so much, Jasmine. We'll see you again real soon for an update call once you crack some of your next big goals. All right. Take care. See ya. All right. I hope you enjoyed that epic interview with Jasmine. I'm so proud of her, and she's going to be having those $10,000 days sooner than later. And I want to invite you now to see if this is something that you want to explore further and book a free complimentary call with my team to see if the Diamond Life Mentorship Program is something that can help you take your life, take your business to the next level. All right. So if you're serious, if you're feeling called forward in your being and you're like, man, I know I need this. Imagine if Balazs was my mentor. He could help me with my specific issues in my life, help me break through some of those limitations, build your confidence, get you results that you haven't been producing, get you to those $10,000 months and beyond. Now is your opportunity to book a call with my team. You'll see a link somewhere below this episode on Spotify, on Apple to book a call. If you don't see it there, you can actually go to my website, balazdwkardos.com/podcast, and go to the latest episode with Jasmin Valdez and go down in the show notes and you're going to see a link that says book a call. And if that still doesn't work, you can also visit www.diamondlifementorship.com and you'll be able to book a complimentary call as well. And I look forward to welcoming many of you into my mentorship so we can 10x your business, blow things up. And I'm super excited to work with you guys. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Diamond Life Mentor Podcast. Chat with you soon. Take care.